What's cracking, people? This is your man Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, representing the high-level technicians operating globally and beyond. So listen, here we have Part 3, or Exhibit C, of the case for Raymond and Parnell. No, you don't have to adjust or rewind or try to hear what I said again. I said Raymond and Parnell, the given names of those who we like to refer to as RayRay and Pookie, or Pookie and RayRay. You see, I begin this bit of evidence with a harkening back to something that speaks to the vein of this entire series. The adjusting of given names has been a tradition that goes back all the way to the ancients. If Parnell and Raymond were the given names in this new space that we call the Western world, then Pookie and RayRay are the tribal names that were earned by a set of characteristics as is expressed through the energy signature that these two individuals would display. And that speaks to the fractured evidence of the rites of passage of old. Now, why do I start this bit of evidence with this statement? Well, in the case for Pookie and RayRay, let's not overlook the pathology, right? Let's not overlook the cases of incidents that have occurred and have been occurring strangely in the news reports, in the newspaper, in cable television, on internet radio. We are blasted every day, year after year, decade after decade, of the episodes of the infamous Pookie and RayRay. But when we stop to think for just a moment, who's perpetrating these things? Who is the one that constantly has the quote-unquote infamous Pookie and RayRay in the backs of not only the minds of those members of the community, aka Black America, but society at large, nationally and globally? Obviously those who control the media, but that'd be taking it too far, and that's not going to factor into the overall bit of evidence that I'm presenting today for the case of Pookie and RayRay. I just wanted to leave that little thought about the rites of passage in your mind. Moving on, I want to address one other thing that's going to stir an entirely different series after this one, and that's the name Carlton. Often in this space we refer to Carltons as the would-be quote-unquote educated lames, or those who came from the ghetto or the communal spaces that the would-be Pookie and RayRays came from, but chose or were offered or provided an alternative path, a set of rules and guidelines and structures that would allow them to level up. I won't get too far into a breakdown of what the Carlton is, but just know that Carlton plays a factor in the role and how we contrast the characteristics and the activities so that we can identify the difference between the Carlton and the Pookie and RayRay. So, who are the ones who get called to battle first? What does that mean? So in a previous podcast, I discussed the alpha showpieces and how with their history, their genetic signatures, their presence, their power, their energy made them the famous men. They were the ones that had the natural raw ability, the style, the strength and the will that pushed them to the leadership position. They led men into battle. They were the ones who guarded the domain of the kingdom and the villages. So they were showered with praise. They were showered with the best garments. They were showered with the finest foods and oils. And they were obviously given the first pick and the best women of the community. Now, if that sounds familiar, keep listening. The ones who get called to battle first are certainly not the Carltons. So, and in the case of when someone gets shot, tragically, let's just say in a police shooting, an unarmed black person gets shot in a police shooting. We can use Trayvon Martin for an example. A lot of people say, well, where's Pookie and RayRay? Pookie and RayRay is always shooting up each other. They're killing each other. They tragically murder, famous rap stars in bouts of gang activity. Why can't they go after those ones who are killing the babies in the street? Why can't these be the ones called to the front line? It's interesting that they call the Pookie and RayRays and not the Carltons. Secondly, where do the culture vultures go to suck the raw, creative lifeblood of the society? Again, not Carlton. They go to Pookie and RayRay. Why is that? Because, as I mentioned in part 2, Pookie and RayRay do not give a fuck about the rules of society. They will wear their clothes their way. They will take what is seemingly next to nothing or rags and stylize them in such a way that it not only is cool and acceptable in the hood, but it is taken and distributed globally. And it's the definition of what is cool and what is acceptable. Third, what is the most reliable caricature broadcast globally that people mimic in order to, quote unquote, keep it real? Look no further than Pookie and RayRay. I'll let that marinate for just a moment. But getting back into it, it speaks to a certain signature. Something that most people may be aware of but can't put their finger on it. There is an energy signature that permeates collectives of the originals. Who are the originals? I mentioned them in other videos. Those who are Aboriginal or native to this space. Even though in America, we're an amalgamation of, bred people in captivity, also with the blood of their captors, to make a very unique and distinct tribal blend that we call Black Americans. But still, that original energy flows unchecked, raw, and vibrantly in these ghetto American spaces to produce the raw materials that not only gets used and commodified nationally, but is shipped over seas and shipped globally to be the latest trend in every layer of society, from popular music all the way up to the popular fashion houses, the upscale couture houses. So anyway, let's bring it home and let's really get to the crux of the Pookie and RayRay case. You see, the greatest fear when it comes to Pookie or RayRay is not that they'll take your car. It's not that they'll take your Rolex watch. It's not even that they'll take your bitch. The greatest fear of those who have, quote unquote, made it out is that after all of the effort and the gains and the quote unquote accomplishment that you've made after making it out of the hood, Pookie and RayRay are the ones who rejected the programming of the Matrix, and that they are the true seers of the code for what it really is. You see, education, access to upward mobility, into what? The greater machine at large. There's a mentality and an energy that says, why bother? Why even bother with a vanilla or a virtual reality? The truth is that Pookie and RayRay, at some level, be it consciously or subconsciously, I think it's consciously, they see the code for what it is. A broken down copy of the original realm where man and his environment were unified and not at odds. So as with any good agent of a system that they bought into wholesale, even though they may not be the ones who economically, socially, educationally castrate Pookie and RayRay at large, the Carltons are the ones who, after the effects of the system and the way that it's structured, lead to the assassination of the greater ones who arise from the Pookie and RayRay energy to try to reach back and help others. After those are assassinated, and after every other one who is incorrectly accosted, harassed, or incarcerated by the system, look at the Pookie and RayRay and say, look there, this is the problem. The baby mamaism, the drugs, the alcohol, the thievery, the despair, the rap music, the drugs, the non-participation in society at large. The Carltons, willingly or unwillingly, follow step and follow the script of mainstream society as they attempt to indict and smother, ultimately, the revolutionary energy of the originals that flows through the greater amount of what would be labeled as Pookie and RayRay, not the marginal ones that commit these acts out of retaliation, out of despair, out of not choosing to go about a different way, but the greater collective revolutionary energy of the originals that flow in ghetto America and that is physically represented by Pookie and RayRay. I like to cite this example, and I like to distill the mentalities of the quote-unquote Western world with the ancient world or Eastern world, and it can be summed up in two words. The Western world, or the Western model, is all about consumption, whereas the ancient world, the Eastern model, is all about communion. Just look at the two largest events in those two scenarios. In the Western world, or mainstream, the largest event of the year is a sales day. It's called Black Friday. It's all about consumption. It's all about sales. The largest events within us in our community, or the ancient or the original communities, is what? The cookouts. And unfortunately, we're all too willing to invite the wrong people just to show our nature, to our detriment, even if those people look like us. And so I like to close in presenting the case for Pookie and RayRay. Stay tuned for the next series, The Case of Carlton. Until next time, this is your man Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, saying, stay sharp and mission focused.